Torsos are the largest forms of the human body, and studying them is essential to successful figure drawing. In this tutorial, I'll show you how I draw male torsos by breaking down the forms of the ribcage and pelvis. I'm going to start with a 3/4 anatomy study of Adam Driver and then another pose featuring Darren Barnet.
So he's leaning forward here. Nice curved line going this way. And then the opposing line of his shoulders, which is pretty straight. And it's better for your angles to be more exaggerated than less exaggerated. And then to kind of just sketch out the shape of his torso. Don't worry about all those abs. Like, I know he's got washboard abs, but try not to draw all those bumps right away. So if you're not sure what's happening with the hips, right, there's a really easy way to figure it out. If you're not sure, right, imagine where his, like, the top of his leg is, right? So the top of his leg is a cylinder that's going to connect to his hip, right? So it would be somewhere along here would be where the top of his leg connects. And then you just turn that into like an underwear shape, right? So if that is the opening, then you know kind of the rest of it is like this, right? Because we all know what underwear looks like. And then we'll draw in his leg. So just a very simple cylinder of the leg. And a tip I have for you when you're drawing legs and arms, this is a simple shape, or a simple form. The simple form of a leg or an arm, either the forearm or the top of the arm, is all the same. It's this tapered cylinder. But if you want a little bit more of a complex form, what you can do is you can kind of square off the cylinder at the bottom and make it more like a cube, make it more like a rectangular prism at the bottom, because these are actually quite bony, right? So I'm just going to imagine his other leg doing this. And then it kind of goes from boxy to round, right? So that's more of a complex form where it's like, looks like one form below connected to another form above. So now that we have, you can kind of see the gesture does not really align with his rib cage that much, right? It's more of the expression of the action. So what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna lighten it so that it doesn't really affect my drawing too much. Then I'm going to put in, okay, where do I think his arms connect? And draw in the action of his arms by paying attention to that negative space. You can see his hand aligns with his pants, like the top of his pants, right? And his hands, they align. His hands, I would say, are roughly the size of his pelvis, maybe a little bit shorter, but for now I'm just going to pencil in the shape of his hand. So I'm going to basically repeat this shape up here, and you can kind of see that his wrist is also kind of boxy at the bottom, right? Boxy like this. And if you can draw a body using simplified forms, then it becomes really easy to shade it after. So then I drew the top of his arm. Then you can kind of draw in that deltoid above it. Okay. So once I have his arm in, I kind of made his deltoid way bigger than it actually is, but it's okay. I said we can exaggerate. So now I'm going to draw the back of his torso, make it a little bit thicker. And then once you have the arm in, or the deltoid in, you can say, okay, how many like deltoid shapes can I fit in his chest? I could probably fit 3. I'm going to gauge how wide it is on this side. And then I'm going to draw his chest plate, which is about 1/3 of the way down, maybe a little bit lower than 1/3. And then just kind of draw the angle of it. And then same thing going up and down. His belly button is kind of here, right? So when you remember, the belly button is in between the rib cage and the hips. So now you can kind of gauge where his rib cage is. For him, you can kind of see where the torso starts to turn, right? If you simplified the torso into a box, right? So let's say this is one side of the box, and then this is the other side of the box. And you see how I'm turning the rib cage into a box, right? The nipple is right on the edge of that box. Okay, so you can kind of place it right on the edge. It might take a while to kind of get used to figuring out where it is, especially because on a side view it's a little bit more challenging. And once you have the torso simplified into a box, now you can draw his abs. So you can divide this into 3, and then you can kind of draw those bumps that we've been dying to draw since the beginning. I'm not going to draw his face, I'm just going to draw the shape of his head. You just have his hair kind of blowing in the wind. So I'm not going to draw the horse in its entirety, but maybe I will express this like hair that he's grabbing onto, because it's so fun. It's just like so, such a power pose, you know? And I was like, what is this thing at the back of his pants? Oh, it's an ear of a horse. All right. So this ambiguous thing that he's sitting on.
If you'd like to support the channel and the creation of free arts education, become a member on Patreon for behind-the-scenes perks and online classes at Wing Canvas.
So for him, he's kind of got some complicated shapes, right? Like his head is tilting this way, his body's bending backwards, and then his, you know. So what I'm trying to do is just kind of capture the gesture of his neck, that curve of his neck, and then like the curve of his jaw, almost in these like more of an abstract way, just kind of seeing how they intersect, and then like the curve of his shoulders. This one's more of a shape-based gesture, just because there's just like so many things going on. It's not a fluid of emotion. And it's very hard to kind of draw the shape of his head. So I'm gonna start there. I'm just gonna square off his jaw here. And then his head is, I know like we wanna think of like the ball and shield, right? So if I think of the ball and shield, this is actually quite a difficult angle, but his hair is very square, right? So you can just kind of draw it as a square. And the neck is this curvy tube that goes into the torso. That you can kind of see the bottom of his chin. I'm not going to go too much into faces here. And then this is a really good exercise for shoulders. Okay, so a lot of us forget really how to draw shoulders. We just kind of draw like the neck and then like, ooh, curve, and oh, here's another curve on the other side, but we don't really draw the anatomy. So this is actually a really good opportunity to draw that anatomy. So we're going to draw in the top of the rib cage there, the bottom of the neck, and then you can kind of gauge where his shoulders start. Like his shoulder kind of starts where his neck ends. I'm just going to put a mark there. And then on the other side, it's going to be a little bit closer. Right? So the shoulder is like here, and then on the other side, it's here. Maybe it's a little bit lower. So then we're going to connect this to the middle of the shoulder. And then from the top of the shoulder, you see that bump on the top of his shoulder there? Right? That's actually where his shoulder, I would say where his shoulder starts. So it's the top of that circle. And then I'm going to draw in a curve all the way to the other side. Okay, then you can kind of draw in what his arms are doing, just the gesture of his arm. He's got a lot of a much shorter torso than Adam Driver. It could also be the pose, like he's kind of compressing his torso a little bit. So it looks a bit different. And then from here, because it's hard to kind of gauge how wide his torso is on this side, you can kind of look at this circle and it kind of connects and comes down from the circle of his shoulder. So we're just going to draw in that shape. It can always change, right? Remember, male torsos are wider at the top and thinner at the bottom, right? So it should kind of be this rounded triangular shape that turns into more of a square down here at the bottom. And then his chest area is like, his chest plate is actually halfway. It's about halfway because he's wearing pants that kind of cover up his hips a little bit higher, and he's compressing his chest. So we're going to go this way. And then where his nipple line is, that is the front of the box of his rib cage. I don't know if you can see the box that I'm drawing, but because we're looking down at him, you can see the top of the rib cage here. On Adam Driver, we're looking up at him, so you can see the bottom of the rib cage, right? Here you see the bottom, here you see the top. So this top part of the box is here. Here's the side of the box. You know where the side of the box is because the nipple is like right on the side. It's technically still on the front, but it's like touching the side. Now you can draw in those bumps. Those lovely gentleman bumps. So the arm, because, okay, so you can see these two arms, this arm you can see, you're looking up at the cylinder, and this arm you're looking down at that cylinder. So the cylinder is going to open, like you'll see the top of the cylinder like this. So you can see they're going in opposite directions. And then this one is actually going in the opposite direction. So it's really important to draw the direction of those cylinders so you know which way it's going in space. So the most important thing is to be able to break down those forms, right? To kind of look at something and not just draw the outline, because anybody can draw an outline, anybody can copy an outline. It's not that hard to do, but you don't really learn any, core skills from doing that, because you have to rely on references. You can't really imagine how these things would look. So, you can't imagine how to draw this torso from another direction, right? But if you know how to construct those forms and where they attach, then you have the freedom to draw poses in any direction out of your head with conviction and confidence. This one, it's a little hard to see what his hips are doing, but I'll kind of draw it anyway. Here, because he's sitting down, right? You can kind of see how his pants are folding, right? You can see that this is telling you that his leg is going this way, right? It follows the curve of his leg. So then this one here, I can't really see, but I can kind of make an educated guess that it's going in this direction. And then I'm going to square off his knee. This is a very difficult angle, right? So I just want to show you how I would draw in the eye, because I think it would be helpful. For Adam Driver, I just kind of shaded in his eye socket, right? And then if I want to draw his eye on top, I can just kind of, draw it in that eye socket, and it would already be in shadow, and it would just kind of make sense. So same thing for him. If you wanted to kind of draw in his eye, just a little note on head structure here. If you see that eyebrow ridge, you can kind of follow it through. And then his eye socket is very triangular. Then you can draw the eyebrow on top. And then his eye is a triangle shape. That kind of sits inside that shape. He's kind of got a pouty mouth here. The ear goes right above the jawline, so wherever the jaw ends, it moves right into the ear.
Join a virtual class to learn live from our professional artists. Get creative assignments, individual guidance, and real-time feedback on your artwork. Start today and level up your practice. If you learned something new, like and share this with a fellow art nerd. If you love receiving quality and free arts education, subscribe. Here are some other videos you can check out next.